Hi, Tokyo Tops. What is our theme today?
Today we're at Shimo-Kita, which is the area Andrew used to live in. Do you miss it? Because I know after you moved to your new house, like, have you been back or looking?
I think I came back last year, but coming back today, it's like, I feel like it keeps on transforming. It just keeps on getting like nicer and nicer. And I kind of miss getting the station and like walking through.
Yeah.
You know, like where I'm at now, it's great because I'm like 2 minutes away from the station, but there's nothing to walk through. So I do miss that for sure.
I mean,
it's so oshare here.
Anyways.
So that's not what we're here to talk about today. Not to reminisce about my old stomping grounds, but we are here because we heard you loud and clear, and we got a lot of Q&A back from our recent cruise journey, right? So we thought instead of just hanging out in our houses and going over some questions, we would take you out and answer some questions while we show you around Shimo-Kita.
Yeah, I think in our cruise video, we showed you a lot of activities or parties, but not really covering everything like the cost of the trip, what was our real experiences like. Because
you don't think it's a real experience?
No. Because a lot of time we were just having, like, we filmed like when we were having fun. Like, but there are actually more going on.
Yeah,
like,
that's true.
Actually, like, when we have too much fun, we stop filming too.
That's true too.
Yeah. So today we just want to sit here and just answer all your questions.
Yeah. Comment below and comment how cute Meng's glasses are. Except there's no lens. There's no lens, but cute nonetheless. Okay, first question.
Where did the cruise start, and also how much did the package cost?
Hey, wait. I gave you a map showing you where the cruise started.
Well, but
I gave them a map.
But I guess in the beginning you said Miami.
Yeah, it started there.
Because we are Tokyo BTM, and people were confused. Like, where is Miami in Tokyo, in Japan, you know?
I worked so hard making those maps, people.
So it's like a stupid question. So we both took like a 16 hours flight. You went to San Francisco first, and I went to Denver.
You were going to go to Canada.
Yeah. But I changed my flight. I went through Denver, Colorado, and then we flew to Miami. So it was a really long trip from Japan, Asia. Yeah. And yeah, it's also very expensive for the flight as well. My flight from Japan to Miami was $2,300 US, and which is like around 30만 the show. Yeah, 30만. Yeah.
Wow, that's a lot. So for me, I was able to fly on some points, which made everything significantly cheaper. But even so, of course, we had to pay for the cruise itself.
Right.
And so the cruise itself was $2,000.
$4,000 US for both of us together in the same room. Yeah. And so that's like 60만 Japanese yen, right?
Lot.
So the whole trip, just by traveling and covering the ticket on to the cruise, was 100만 yen.
Good on you, yeah. Yeah.
It's like 1 million Japanese yen.
So whoever's watching, they need to help make the Japanese yen stronger, because we can't keep doing this. Like, it's so, like, if you think about a $2,000 trip for each of us or whatever, that doesn't sound bad from a US point of view. And also you're traveling within the US too. Like, it doesn't sound so bad. Coming from outside of the US and also with Japanese yen, it was rough. It was rough. It was very expensive.
I think we can afford it. But
well, this guy here just spent $100 on parking last night. So,
and also in the same question, a person asked like, このパーティーは毎年やってますか？開催されてますか？
開催されてると思います。
I'm not sure. Like, I can't answer because that was my very first cruise experience as well.
It is.
It is a yearly event?
I think so.
Okay, so I
well,
mean,
when it was in Corona, of course, for obvious reasons, they didn't do it. But pretty sure it was I mean, this is their moneymaker of the year.
Just check.
Just check. Just check. Yeah. That's true.
Cruise. Okay, so people ask the second question.
Okay.
What do you think of Miami?
People are so rude in the States. People are so rude. Like, I get off the plane instantly and I just hear people just looking out for themselves and not giving a shit about anyone else. That is my issue. I think in general, it's not even just Miami, but it's like every time I go to America, I feel like the hostility. But you don't mind, you like it.
I feel the opposite.
Yeah.
I feel like I was much of myself. Like I felt more free, and I can be like, because Japan, I have to watch out like how I act sometimes because there's like social pressure and everything. But I feel like America people just respect like uniqueness, and you can just act like yourself. That's what I think.
I mean, everyone does act like themselves. They don't give a shit about anything else but themselves.
Another thing about it is I found people are very attractive in Miami. The
they
guys
have their
and
beach
the girls.
bods.
Yeah. And also the weather was very much like Thailand.
It was
the vibe, the weather is like very Bangkok. あ、はいはいはい。あ、わかりました。大丈夫です。はい、じゃあ止めますのでありがとうございます。Okay. So
we just got, speaking of not being able to do whatever you want in Japan, we just got yelled at.
So we're gonna change place and finish all the questions.
Yeah, sure.
Let's do that. So yeah, we have
we got oirasareta, we got chased away. So we're on the move.
Now we just find a random corner.
Yeah, and then surely someone's gonna come and yell at us in a second too. But until then, we're gonna answer your questions.
Okay, the third question.
Okay, third question.
Give a rundown of the ship's events and facilities and how much they cost individually. That's a tough question because we actually don't know every single day's schedule, and also because of the weather was so it was really cold for the first 2 days, and they had to change the events around, right? So every day they will give you a piece of paper with all the events and the facility, what is available, what restaurant, you get chotto toku and all the information on it.
Yeah, I mean, so most of the restaurants are free, but they do have other restaurants that you can pay an additional fee to dine at. And a lot of the events were free too. We saw drag shows, of course, there was the skating one, that show, there was cats, there was comedy shows, there was karaoke on board. So we went and did some karaoke, which was fun.
I don't think there's any show that you need to pay extra money.
I don't think so.
Yeah, the shows are all covered. All right, next one. Quality of food and shows.
This is what I'll say. I'll say the low quality food was better than I expected. The high quality food was not as good as I expected.
What do you mean high quality food? You mean
our nice dining. I wouldn't say it was supposed to be fancy, but I felt like it was supposed to be fancier than the buffet, and it kind of tasted like the buffet.
Yeah, honestly, the food were not great to me. Because I'm just
you like
picky or stuff.
You like higher quality food.
So
I
can tell that it was not good quality. It was okay, passable, edible.
It was family restaurant quality.
I don't even think so.
Family restaurant.
No, I was also very seasick, right? So I wasn't feeling very well. Maybe that didn't give me too much appetite to eat as well.
True.
But I don't think you shouldn't.
You're not coming for the food.
You shouldn't expect. Well, maybe they can pay extra money for the more high-end options. I don't know.
I mean, there was sushi on board that one of our friends wanted to go to a lot because he was saying it's really high quality. So I mean, I don't know. I don't even like sushi. So
I think the quality of the show overall is really, really high, and we have lots of talented dancers and singers and performers. So the quality of the shows are definitely very high.
And that's true. I guess Aqua 80 was really
acrobatic.
Yeah, acrobatic. People they looked world class.
Yeah, amazing.
And the drag performers were also really quite good. And the comedy was really good. I mean, also we even got Alan Cumming. That's pretty good.
Yeah, I was too sick to watch that part.
That was
Okay, next one can be a little bit more spicy. Was there sex in the common areas of the ship?
So it's funny, the first thing we got on, we went to orientation. The first thing we were told was not to have sex in the elevators. Do you remember that?
Do people do that?
They did that last year apparently or whatever.
But
and
the elevator is transparent.
It's transparent, it's glass. Yeah, that's why. So you could see go up and down. People were having sex, and the staff could see it. So
I mean, people do make love on the dance floor.
Yes.
Make it.
And we saw that.
Simple.
I tripped over people.
Ew.
I tripped over people because I'm walking, and there were people on their knees, and I'm just looking like this, walking around and being like, whoa.
So in that situation, who is the Jama one? Like
him. He's Jama. He's in the way. He's in my way. But he's probably thinking that I'm like ruining his vibe, you know, like killing his moment, you know. But I was like, yeah. I mean, I guess I should look a little bit more. But the main idea, and you know, obviously this makes sense. There's a reason for this, is that they tell you if you were to do something, make sure it's like not where any staff are around, because like the staff didn't sign up.
No, I didn't sign up.
Yeah, honestly,
I didn't sign up. But they have a designated red area just for cruising.
Yes, yeah. So and it's outdoor, and it overlooks the solarium as well. So it is public-ish, but also hidden insofar as like you can't see anything from the outside. This was so much fun. Please do an episode where you sit down and retrace back steps on this cruise. What you could have done or bring if you recommend it to solo travelers, or if you have to be muscular or twink or hung to have fun. Please, please, please.
Solo travelers, okay?
I met a guy on board who traveled by himself, and you know, his experience was that it was really a good way to meet a lot of people, but then there were a lot of times when of course he was alone, because he could meet people at parties and have a good time, but then at the end of the day, like a lot of the experiences on the cruise were fleeting. They were momentary.
Yeah.
And so like once that ended, then he would be by himself again. So he said he was fine, but when he heard about like us going on like with a bunch of friends, he was like, I would like to come with friends.
I don't think you should go solo. Because if you go solo, then yes, you have to rely on your beauty or your body to make connections where fill that empty times. You know, like there are times that maybe you have no one to hang out with and you feel like I'm so out of place, nobody wants to talk to me, and I'm so lonely. But we went with friends, right? Like, so we don't need constant validations where finding guys as the only option. Like I can hang out with all of my friends when they're free. So my suggestion is like, if you can find someone to go with you, I think it's gonna be much more fun and easier for your experience.
I do think it'd be much more fun if you can go with people. But for instance, you remember that they said in our orientation that if you are alone for certain things like dinner, you can tell the staff that like I'm alone, and then they'll place you with someone else. So they have things in like, that could be quite cool, right?
Awkward.
It could be a bit awkward. I think it depends on your personality, right?
Yeah.
For you, it would be awkward. For me, I would be sitting down being like, hi guys, and introduce myself and maybe try and make friends over an hour dinner.
What if they're not friendly? You know?
yeah. I mean, that would be awkward.
Well,
then I get up again and be like, you sat me with some bitches. Can you move me?
Do you have to be a muscular or a twink or a hung to have fun?
So there were a lot of body types. You know, like we posted a video on Taiwan Pride, even last year when we went to White Party. I felt these parties have less variety in body types. So when I got on the cruise, I don't know about you, but I was like, oh wow, there's something for everyone and all sorts of body types, and everything was celebrated, and everyone was so nice to each other as well. So
my question is like, other than muscular and twink or hung, like what's left?
Like bears.
There were lots of bears. I think
yeah, there
so.
were lots of bears, right?
Yeah.
I think if you're thinking too much about, you know, like your appearance or your body or whatever, I don't think you need to worry that much. If you go to like Taiwan Pride, for instance, or like Bangkok or other places, I would say there is more emphasis on that. I think this is one of the places with the least emphasis on it.
So your comment saying, I see Meng is wearing earplugs, is it super loud at the parties? And also the person said he went to a gay cruise a long time ago in 2007, but it was to Alaska and the vibe was very different, though still an amazing time. Do you feel this cruise is very international, or was it mostly Americans? So answer the first part of the question, yes, it was very loud. I mean, any circuit party or gay parties, you should always wear earplugs. Because it's gonna like when you're in the moment, when you're drunk, like you probably wouldn't feel it that bad, but it just take one moment to blast your ear and damage your ear. So like I basically wear earplugs all the time.
Yeah, it was interesting actually, because I was at a party and people were like not scolding, but they were like, Andrew, wear your earplugs. Why don't you have earplugs? And then they went and got their like extra for me, which was really sweet. Yeah, so it is loud and you do need them.
Was it very international, or was it mostly American? Okay, I actually don't know. Because I feel like we have met so many people from outside America as well. Like even in our first part of the video, like the British guy, like traveled all the way from England.
Yeah.
And there were so many guys from like Canada.
There were a lot of Canadians. There were a lot of people from Canada.
We're like Brazil, like American continent, you know. Yeah, but like, how about people from Asia? That's a good question.
Yeah, I don't think there were many people from Asia.
They're just like Asians living in America, most of the. Yeah, well, a lot of people actually come from like Australia as well.
Actually, there were a lot of Australians.
So I do think like from the white world, you know.
Western world?
So what do you do when you're sharing a room and you like to hook up with someone? Did you two set up a rule or a system?
Take it away.
I think it only happened once that you wanted to use the room. It was on the first night or the second night. You told me to don't come back to the room for like an hour-ish. And I just told you like, just message when you finished up, you know, like, to be honest, like I'm a very flexible person. Like I don't really have like rules or anything. Like as long as we're having fun, like I don't really care.
I mean, this guy wanted to not have rules specifically so that he could accidentally walk in on stuff. Okay, let's be real. There's times when Meng was sleeping. Of course, you also got sick, right? So I'm not gonna come in and like wake you up and be like, you need to leave, right? So of course, and like there could have been times when I'm sleeping and you come back or whatever, right? So that is one thing, is that like, because there is no real schedule, it is conceivable that, you know, someone might be sleeping, even if they were willing to like give up the room, but they're sleeping, right? So that's something to think about. Okay. But there's always enough places on the ship to do something, like an elevator.
I have a question. How many times did you make love in the room, in our room? Only once or twice?
I think it was only once or twice. Because again, after that, you were like KO for 3 days.
Only once, right? Probably.
I think it was once.
But then you always go to their room to do it. Okay.
Yeah.
We didn't use our room that much.
Yeah.
It was a sick bay.
It was a sick bay.
So next question is kind of funny. Someone asked, how did you stop yourself from literally jumping on every man on the boat? Because honey, I feel like I was in a meat factory.
Well, you were in a meat factory and so were we.
But you don't have to buy every single meat.
That's true.
A lot of you guys were saying like, not so many people finish.
Yes,
every time when they meet someone, they just like play a little bit and they want to change to the next better thing, you know?
True.
So I feel like after a while, it's kind of like tiring. Like for me, again, I'm gonna repeat, like when sex is on full display, I lost interest. So like when there's so many meat in front of me, I'm like no longer craving for meat anymore.
There's something really freeing and fascinating about how people interacted where, you could go and grab a kiss from random people and, you know, get hugs or whatever. And as we said before, there was like sex happening on the dance floor, but there was something about it which was very like performative and on display. There was a lack of feeling and intimacy there. And I'm not saying you necessarily need that for sex. That was a fascinating aspect of it, was that it was so casual. But as you said, no one ever really took it farther than that.
So next one is specifically about one of our friends. We actually got a couple comments for him. So our friend Brendan, people asking, is he single or not because he's super cute?
Here's Brendan's Instagram. Go ask him yourself.
Yeah. And also people say you guys look very cute together on the bike.
On the bike. No, that was roller coaster.
Oh, on the roller coaster, yeah. Well, you
that was cute. Yeah, that was cute.
But I'm not sure if he's gonna be happy if you call him a daddy though.
Oh, they call him a daddy?
It's like, Andrew, who's that daddy on the bike with you? You look like super cute. I think he's younger than you.
He is younger than me, actually. I think he's 2 years younger.
So you're the daddy. What were things that turned out differently than you imagined? Any surprises in a positive or a negative way? Would you do it again? We knew it's gonna be crazy.
Yes.
We knew it was gonna be crazy, wild, timeless. Because Akio in our group, he went there many times. So gave us what to prepare, like what mentally and also physically as well, right? So we kind of have an idea of what's going on. Any surprises? I don't know, like about the trip itself. I mean, you said you didn't have enough sex.
Yeah, I mean, because I've seen the videos, and because I heard about, that's even people watching felt the same thing. It was such a meat fest, right?
Yeah.
So I walked in being ready to stuff my face. You know what I mean? With all the meat.
But you did.
And I expected more. It's more about a surprise about myself.
Yeah.
Like when we went to the after party, for instance, there were opportunities.
Yeah.
But I didn't feel, again, the whole scene felt performative and just something I didn't expect. And I didn't really realize how I wanted to be in that scene. And so, do you know what I mean?
So the trip is the same. Like it's crazy but it was your own action. You feel it was surprise. But I feel like that's a typical you though, because I feel like every year we go to white party, you always feel like, oh, I feel so mad I didn't go to that after party the other day. Like there's something like you always feel that you didn't participate, you're missing out, for some, like you have lost opportunities. Like which year you didn't say, ugh, like I missed that like last night
that's
party,
actually true. That is true.
I thought I wouldn't be so seasick.
Yeah.
That's true. Because people always tell me like, oh, the boat is super big, it's gonna be very stable.
Yeah.
But in the first 2 days, I think we had a storm or something. It was extremely cold.
Yeah, so cold.
So it was really cold. Like every time I want to put on a jacket, go to the dance floor. So yeah, prepare your seasick pill. Also, like I took seasick pill every single day. It didn't work that well. Did the setup and atmosphere make you feel like a different person? Bolder, were more forthcoming? Where did the usual etiquette and restraint on land apply?
It did not apply at all. In our life here, we wouldn't know. We just passed someone walking here. It was like, are they gay? Are they not gay? Yeah. You knew everyone was gay. And so because of that, you could really skip a lot of the guessing. And that was super fascinating. I was on an elevator and I was just instantly able to be like, wow, like have a good night, handsome, sort of thing. And he was like, you too, handsome. I would never do that in a normal place. You know what I mean? Like, and the freedom of that, I was able to act in a way that I could normally never act. I think on the dance floor as well, it was like, can I give you a kiss? It was like, okay. The interesting thing on the flip side about that is that while there was this freedom, there was a lot of consent asked back and forth. A lot of people were like, may I do this? Can I, blah, 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 this and that. And I was all like, maybe because it's so free, in order to sort of like make sure it doesn't get out of hand, people there up their consent level, you know?
So I just want to add on top of your comment, you said like, it's kind of like a gay wonderland where the ship's name is called Oasis of the Sea, but it's actually Oasis of the Gays, you know? So like you're in this like different reality that only gay people is the norm. Yeah. And so that's why you don't have to ask or guessing someone if they're gay or not. You can just jump into your next action, right? Bolder and more forthcoming.
Yeah, you were.
I think I was, because I made a pact with Ricky because we are usually very shy and we don't approach guys that we think are attractive because we always think like, oh, maybe we're not at their level, we're not good enough. So I went on this, before going on the trip, me and Ricky was like, it's once in a life experience, let's just make it fun and let's just go out of our shell. So we were like kind of encouraging each other just to talk to the guys that we think are hot. So I was able to actually be more transparent with this, where just show my desire to someone, and it got some like really positive results. So I was like, maybe the cruise, because it's such a wild and crazy and ruleless place, I was able to come out of my shell and be more forthright with my feelings.
The fascinating thing as well was also the clothes. One of my favorite memories is when Shohei finally arrived. Do you remember that he was like, oh, we need to go talk to the staff about the internet. And he went down in a jockstrap. And so he's talking to staff and I'm like right behind him and his ass is fully out. Like that freedom, you cannot do that anywhere else. I saw that with a lot of people. People were wearing clothes that they normally wouldn't wear. I'm not saying that they were like wearing inappropriate clothes. I mean, it's just fascinating. I'm not saying they're wearing inappropriate clothes, but they were wearing different types of things that they normally wouldn't. And that is expressing yourself in a way that you normally wouldn't.
Tell us your overall enjoyment of it. I had a lot of fun, but I would say like, did I physically feel very well during the whole trip? Not really. Like the first 2 days, I was kind of okay, but I needed a lot of rest because I think psychologically, I also have like, if I don't rest up, like I'm probably gonna get sick. That's always backing my mind. So I didn't go full out, you know, but then I got sick. So I really didn't have like a lot of time to explore or did many things I wanted to do. I mean, overall, yes, I had a very fun and crazy experiences with my friends and also met lots of new people as well and experienced some like romantic, I kind of like fell in love with someone on the boat. And
which is the one thing you're not supposed to do. That's what everyone says. Do not fall in love on the boat.
And I got really sad because just knowing that you can see the end. You can see the boat is just a dream, a wild dream, right? So it's gonna end on the spot. So, but Paris told me one thing. It's like, at least we know right now that your heart still beats for someone.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
it's a nice way to look at it.
I think I learned that like I can still have like romantic feelings or like true butterflies for someone, which doesn't really happen very often because I'm very like controlled by my own logic and belief.
For me, I think my main thing is it needs to be closer. Like, would I go again? Yes. My overall experience was great. I felt there was so much packed in those 7 days. Everything was happening all the time, and that was so exciting. The difficult part about that was that now that I'm back and rested and I feel really well, I have those like FOMO things of like, I should have gone here, I should have gone here. Sometimes we were moving so quickly that I didn't even have time to like stop and smell the roses, if that makes sense.
I know what you mean, but I also feel like you did a lot compared to me, like already. Okay, so then we're gonna respond to some comments. They're not really questions.
Videos like this make me wonder if I'm a part of the LGBT community. I've never been drunk a day in my life. I've never had sex outside of a relationship. I have never danced all night, and nor have I had multiple sexual partners. I feel this kind of gay life to be my worst nightmare. You all help me to know that I'm not interested in this part of popular gay life. I reject this kind of hedonism for personal reasons. None of this is my idea of fun. I might even go so far as to say I find it gross. But I would never be against any of you enjoying your life as you see fit. It is not for me nor my style.
You do you. Yeah, I mean, we're not forcing anyone to believe it's fun or whatever. Like, I think even within the gay communities, they're all different type of people, right? Like, gay is not one type of personality.
Yeah. There's a bunch of things I find in this comment where, you know, I've never been drunk in my life, never had sex outside of a relationship, never
You're
had
missing
multiple.
out.
Well, yes, I would say. But second of all, this is not gay life. These things are not restricted to being gay. Straight people do this all the time. Bi people do this all the time. People across the whole sexual spectrum do this all the time. Pointing in that this is like what you envision of gay life has this very negative aspect, but it's like, well, are you judging the rest of the world the same way? Second of all, going on a cruise is, for the environment, it's bad. But this idea of hedonism is something like I kind of reject because it has this negative connotation that we're not supposed to do things for fun or to be happy, and that doing these things are really negative. You and I live in a country where that's very much it's almost like you have to be suffering all the time, and it's an expectation that you're suffering. A lot of people are depressed, and a lot of people are worked to the bone. And I think we really need to break out of this idea that going on a vacation and having a trip and having a couple wild nights, even a week, is something bad. I also think something to look into this as well is this idea of like having sexual partners and having sex outside a relationship and stuff like that. You know, I used to be like that. I used to not do any of that stuff, like have multiple relationships or multiple sex partners, because I was consistently afraid that I'd be judged for it. Because that's very straight society, right? Like you have to be monogamous, and you have to don't be a slut and stuff like that. And once I was able to sort of break out of that, I felt so much freer. Yeah, liberated, essentially. Like, I don't have to live by these straight rules anymore, you know? And but that came from, I'm speaking about my own experience, but that came from a place of fear. Of being, I could be gay, but don't worry, I'm not that gay. I'm not like one of those slutty gays who, you know, get drunk all the time, right? It's to fit into the society here. And I feel better now to be sort of free of those expectations. I think this is a good opportunity for everyone, even people watching at home, to think about what triggers you, and then why is this triggering to you, and what fears are driving your actions.
I always say we are sharing, we are not teaching. We're not telling you what to do. This channel is really about what we want to share, and we're not representing the community. We're just only representing ourselves. I'm 29 and could never imagine doing this with my boyfriend. Fun video though. I wonder how the staff feels seeing all this debauchery.
Oh, debaucherous activity.
Just don't go with your boyfriend.
Just leave him home. Actually, I did meet a guy who was like, yeah, my boyfriend's at home. This is his time to sort of have fun.
Yeah. Why do you have to go with your boyfriend?
No,
I feel like that person definitely think that we are boyfriends. They're
you think so?
That's impossible.
Oh.
I don't know.
Most of the people on the cruise, I think, had boyfriends.
Oh,
right?
Almost all of them. Yeah, they're partnered.
Yeah.
But like in an open relationship where, you know, multiple ways of relationship.
Yeah. I think that's it. Like, I don't know if you're monogamous, maybe it would be very hard. I think it's a test for a relationship. It's a test on how secure you feel when other people are hitting on your, you know, boyfriend or whatever. Even if you're in an open relationship, when you're in that meat market, you know, sometimes things are going to happen. You're going to get feelings about it, maybe some jealousy and stuff like that. So my point is, I can understand why people would be like, I don't know if my boyfriend and I should go on that, because it may really rock the boat, right? And you might be confronted with a lot of things that are scary. But having said that, again, I do think a lot of people on the boat are coupled, and it seems like it kind of goes pretty well. People even, I think, can leave stronger because it forces you to have some difficult conversations that maybe you don't want to have. But I've seen it make people stronger, and I've seen it also get into fights. So would you take your boyfriend on it?
Depend on who is my boyfriend, right? That's the real question.
I guess
if
that is a real question.
Someone who's like very innocent, it's like not really into party life, why do I want to force themselves into a uncomfortable situation, you know?
Yeah.
And I can have my own days off, just hang out with my friends who love to party and be on this gay cruise without forcing my partner to do the same thing as I enjoy, you know?
Yep.
Okay, so now we're jumping into Patreon questions.
So if you guys don't know, we have a Patreon account where people can join. They can join our Discord chat where we give tips on Japan and stuff like that, and just banter back and forth. Chatting is a great place. And sometimes we also upload extra content like we are about to now, just to dive a little bit deeper into some of the things that we can't really talk about on this platform. Yeah.
How different is a gay cruise from a gay sauna in terms of how hookups happen?
I wonder if there was a cruising area or technically the entire ship was one big cruising spot.
I heard my friends said there were parties everywhere and every night.
So if you are curious about a little bit more of the not safe for work topics, then pop over to our Patreon and check out the video there.
So see you at White Party this year.
See you at White Party.
Wait, that's NSFW?
Not safe for work. Yeah.
Wow.